Hey everybody, let's get situated here. Get some music in there and let people stream in a little bit. Oh, the music paused for a second. That was weird. All right. Man, that music's acting really weird. Seems a little loud. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And my levels sound okay. Right, just getting situated here. Thank you. Music still sounds a little loud. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit more. All right, everybody. So today, wish I had more time to do these more often, but today we are going to be working on another Vulkan bug, and we're going to be looking a little further into the new content builder because I want to try to get that thing stable so that we can ship 3.8.5 ASAP and get that 3D content platformer or that 3D platformer starter kit shipped. So those are my goals for today. I wish I had more time to do other stuff. We'll see how quickly we get through that stuff. There's some other stuff I want to deal with, but we'll just see where we get. So let's share a screen and start this process. So let's go over to the other window and then let's get a screen shared going. All right. So we're back to that old platformer 2D sample. Still working on that. We'll jump to something else here in a little bit, but we'll start there. So are we in the right place? Let's see. Should still be working as it was before. Some breakpoints or some stuff in here. And, oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's because I was messing around with some other features, I think, at the time. Interesting. Huh. I didn't set it up to Alt-Enter or anything. It just uses Enter to go full screen. That's probably not ideal. But yeah, so, okay. So we basically have it working. I'm going to raise my text size a little bit, make things easier on everybody. All right, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to pull, Crumpet did a lot of work this last week. I wanted to go ahead and pull it into my branch. If I haven't already, I think it might already be in there. Let's see. Yep, your stuff's in there, so that's good. I'm going to make sure this thing does a rebuild of this stuff. And I probably need to make sure that the pipeline is built as well. So let me jump over to that other solution for MonoGame and make sure that that gets built. Yeah. I think that's what I need. Let's see. Make sure this is all 100% rebuilt in both debug and release so that it's using the right things. All right, rebuild there. I've always been somebody that uses Visual Studio more than command line, so I prefer to do this and build exactly what I need to build and be able to get to everything than command line stuff. All right, so with all that rebuilt, let's rebuild all this. And then that should mean that we're completely up to date. I guess we should know because some new extensions that were added. I just never trust it until I actually lay eyes on actual change code. I guess I should be able to see it here. If we just go to git blame. Interesting. So far, I do not see. Aha, look at that. Why is it not have that stuff? So that's why I didn't trust it. I knew I didn't trust it for a reason. Is the wrong folder? No, it's the right folder. Because one I already pulled. Oh, I guess no. I was thinking that the stuff that you did that Crumpet did in a different PR, that's not merged yet. See, that's why I was confused, and that makes more sense. This code and this code that hasn't been merged yet. But I think this one can be merged at this point. So yeah, let's just squash and merge this thing. We'll bring it in here, and then we'll test it against this while we're doing it. Done. Squashed and merged. I think this one is still Vulkan constant buffers not used, offset and sizing specified. I'd like to squash and merge this one. It's ready, and it seems like everything is in there. I already reviewed it the other day. Just doing a quick look over things. Yeah, that all seems fine to me. Let's get this thing merged. I'd rather merge and fix issues than hold things back, especially on the Vulkan side where we want to get this thing done and out the door. So squash and merge. And then, because it's convenient, I'm going to go to my thing here, and I'll let this build. I'm going to go ahead and let it update my branch, because it'll do that. And it'll be rebuilding that stuff while I'm doing other stuff. So now if I pull here, I should get all those changes. Okay. Well, that's there. And now we should have the changes I was looking for. Yep, there we go. That's what I was looking for. What I want to do, I want to go in here and rebuild this. All right, that's rebuilt. And then I'm going to rebuild debug just in case. So I always forget which ones I'm linked to, so it won't hurt to build both of them and have everything up to date. And then I'm going to rebuild this guy. Everything built, so we're not completely screwed in any way. Let me see what happens when we run it. Hopefully everything the same. Yep. The you died thing is a thing that I did with this vsync hack. I need to go fix that, but it's not critical for what we're doing here today. Actually, let me run that again. I'll do a couple of the things that we were doing before. Like, let me check our output window here. We still have some validation errors, but we had some before. Yeah, we had this one last time. Is being signaled by cube may still be in use. I've seen that one. It's kind of weird. I mean, it seems to be working, but it's not an actual... It hasn't been an issue. Okay, so things are working here. Then I'm going to go and resize the window just to see if that caused any problems. No. That's right, can't go through. I should fix it to do that sometime. I'm missing my jumps. I'm curious why it does that. It's obviously gameplay because the time did pause. It's not like a... I was seeing it was like, is it a graphics glitch, you know, that happens to look like that screen or what? But it's not. It's a gameplay thing of some sort, but we don't really care about that. All right. So we're there. The thing that I wanted to look at for a little bit today was this issue. Wanted to look at this one real quick. Not that it's super critical, but basically the report was that that on this specific piece of hardware, it fails to create a swap chain. And we were able to get the dev that ran into it to dump. Since I don't have access to that hardware, I was able to get that guy to run a dump that showed like what surface formats he saw, and it dumped out that. And I took this thing, and for sake of speed, I slapped this into ChatGPT, and it spit out, you know, my formats and everything, because I don't want to waste time doing something stupid like that. And looking at it, it's obvious, you know, what the issue is that the game is looking for RGBA unorm, or that's the default that we have for color. Is RGBA unorm is the default format we use for color format, which seems to work almost everywhere. And then some hardware does not report RGBA unorm. It reports BGRA unorm. And for the back buffer, that's okay to use one format or the other. It's not going to really affect anything. The back buffer or the swap buffer, you're not really doing a read back from that in a format that matters. So the order of it does not matter as much. So I think there is actually one call to, like, you know, to read the back buffer data. We'll have to see if that runs into a problem. But what I wanted to do was to fix the code to support either format, you know, when you're creating the swap chain, which is a pretty simple fix. So we might as well just do that now. So I think it was like, yeah, so it's in here somewhere. Yeah, so it's this code here. It comes in and says, get all the surface formats the device supports, and it looks for a match. You know, if it doesn't find a match, it fails. You know, I should probably add a better message here than just letting it fail, because what the user saw was a crash, basically, if I remember correctly. Swap chain was null before acquiring frame. This shouldn't happen. So they saw. So it's not, you know, it's not very helpful as to why. So to improve that, we should probably have this actually spit out something useful. Do we have any logging in here? What do we use for logging in here? Do we just print? It's not the best. I guess we've been just doing that. That's not... We probably should formalize this into something a little bit better than this, but I'm not going to make that the mission of today. but we definitely should look for a better way to do that. There's something that's a little bit more cross-platform. Okay, so where were we? Here. So we want to do a little bit more here. So so let's start there. So I always like putting exclamation points on things. I don't know why. It seems like it's critical, so maybe we should do that. And I do want to kind of print out what the format requested was. And I guess this call doesn't have any sort of error return that says, hey, it failed to do this. I mean, it'll eventually fail out later, but at least we're now dumping out some useful information as to why it failed. At least we think so. Let's fake it and see what happens here. I'm pretty sure it'll just show up, but yeah, we probably need to have something better than this. I don't know if there is a simple VK format to string conversion. Sounds like they're. I'll read this Google AI overview, which I've found a lot of times is not the greatest, but is that actually a thing? Let's find out. They say it's part of the thing. Yeah. I think the AI was making up shit. It said something about Vulkan utils. I don't see a Vulkan utils. Vulkan funcs. Okay, that does exist. Let's see what's in here. Oh, come on, don't give me a hard time. Is there a namespace I need to do? I'm not convinced of this thing. This just looks like AI garbage. Ugh. Let's see if Reddit's a better source of information here. Who knows if that exists? Let's see. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm going to try just for another minute here, and if I don't find it, I'm giving up on it. I don't want to suck up all my time with some garbage like this. Let's see if Visual Studio can find it for me. All right, finished searching it, found nothing. So. I'm just going to ask some ChatGPT about it, see if they can find it for me while I'm doing other stuff. No. According to ChatGPT, Vulkan doesn't provide this natively, so. I mean, he says actually it does ship with a helper header. But that's not what I found. Unless maybe that's part of an extended library that we don't have. I mean, they say it's part of the Vulkan SDK. I'm not seeing it. Let's just go look in the folder real quick and see. It's probably because we're not using the full SDK, it's just Vulkan headers. So it doesn't have that stuff in it. So yeah, we'll just not do that. Problem to solve for some other time. So some notes for me for the future. Yeah, it's a big header, but I don't even see the file in there. And we are including, so somebody was saying like, it's a big header, so maybe Visual Studio's not finding it quickly, but looking in the folder, I didn't see it, and it's probably part of the full Vulkan SDK. We're not using the full Vulkan SDK. We're just using the minimal Vulkan headers. So my guess is it's not in that part of it. And it's not critical, I just wanted to give something informational. So more important to fix this actual problem. Early out instead of that. It's not that. I prefer a couple simpler if statements. Let the compiler optimize it, So I'm going to do what's that format? Just looking at it. So we're looking for that. That's not right. So what's the other one? I'm pretty sure that's our conversion there. So if it's not that, I'm going to get fancy here. So if VK color is not RGB UNorm, which I think, where's our conversion for this? We have a lookup table somewhere in here. Where do we put that? Do we have it like in a header, or is it just part of here? There it is. So yeah, so this is what we do by default, is what we support for that. But I think we need to support the other. So if the format is that, that seems wrong. I'm not going to get distracted. So if it's not this, I don't like doing it this way. I like earlying out and doing this, reverse thing, but it's not really good in this case. Let's do this. Well, no. This is hard to read. Let's just put this in the regular way. And I'd rather have 2 breaks and make this easier to read. I'm just doing this for this one format. At least this way, like, you can, if you're checking for a perfect format, you can, like, I always think about things also in the point of view of debugging, and not having, like, some people would write just a big long if statement here, and then if you set a breakpoint, you can't tell which one hit until you examine it. I'd rather have 2 if statements. Let the compiler optimize it. It'll optimize it down and make it 1 if statement. Not that it matters here. And this will just handle it, and this will be very clean to detect this case. And then if you have a case, if it falls through this case and it gets here, you knew that it was not a match. And also, if you know if it gets here, that it was this case in particular. So it kind of separates it out so that it's very clear what cases you're dealing with. So this should totally work for our case. Like, I don't have a test case for this, unfortunately. So it should hit there for that. Actually, this is a good point. This is a failure here, potentially. You see, it matched it even though it didn't need to. Like, it needs to actually fail once. Yeah, we need to let it fail once so that it exhausts the possibilities before it makes that decision. So it means a second loop, which is a little annoying, but it's not the big deal. I mean, we could recode this in a bunch of different ways, but a second loop is not a big deal. But I'll do it only in the case of this other thing. So let's do this. We'll copy this loop down here. Lost my comment. Where'd my comment go? Oh, that's what happened. Consumed it. I love reversing these things, even if it is a little bit more code, because it makes it more clear, I think. So we're going to do that. We're going to do a I could do something a little trickier here, maybe. Sure. Like, I could use a go-to here and do that. I don't mind using go-tos, especially when it makes the code simpler. You know, another way well, no, I don't want to do that, because we do want it to first try to match on an exact match. Otherwise, we want it to fall into this, you know, inexact match. So it needs to do 2 loops no matter what. Is VK color used further down here? Let's just use here to find this, and then it's done. How's color format used? Used here. Interesting. Create swap chain. So it's like, it's interesting. Why is this? I'm trying to verify like how this is used. So why is it doing this search if it doesn't end up using it for the creation? I guess it's just validating whether it exists or not. That's all it's really doing. It's really not changing anything. It says fall back to another one otherwise, but I don't think it ever falls back to another one. What is this one doing up here? Oh, I see. So we probably want, this is getting more complex than I thought, because there's a lot of choices to make here, you know, as to what the best way to approach this is and stuff. But like if I change this, then so if I change the value of this, the problem here is stuff like this, where it's like, hey, just recreate it. It's now going to pass in a different format here, which might be okay. But I'm more worried about this, you know, where it, see, it might not matter because it's only used in that case. But I mean, if it recreates for a different reason, it'll say, oh yeah, it has to change, even though it doesn't need to. And this is something like the details of this format internally probably are not critical to the C# side of things. As long as it works, it might not care. So we might want to maintain this like this and just have it maintain the requested color. So this is what was requested. It wasn't necessarily what the actual color format is. So yeah, I guess what we want to do is this. I think what we want to do is wait, isn't that? Yeah, it's already here. I want to do that. It's going to assign it if it finds it. And then down here where it actually uses it to create surfaces, we're going to use, you know, and let's call it something different. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. It's fine. It's going to use surface format. And then down here where it uses it again, I'll have it use surface format as well. And that will create it at the whatever the decided surface format was based on the requested surface format. Any updates from there? Someone fill me in on what he's doing. Let's see. So, a question. Hello and welcome to the channel. So what we're doing some work on MonoGame. MonoGame is like a spiritual successor to XNA that's been used to make, you know, Stardew Valley and Celeste and Axiom Verge and some other titles in the past that you would definitely know of. And we maintain MonoGame, you know, by extending it and keeping it running on different platforms, including consoles and mobile devices, places that XNA never worked. And right now I'm working on a bug on Vulkan in our new Vulkan backend. So that's what we're doing right now. So yeah, so I think that gets you up to speed, new viewer. Let's see. Oh, somebody did respond to that, but that's good. But yeah, at least I acknowledge this as well. That's good, I think. So let's see, color, back to what we're doing. So color format is used a couple places, so that's perfectly fine, I think. We basically find a valid surface format. So if the surface format is still undefined here and it was actually our default RGB color, I don't mind making that a little bit longer line. What I was thinking we could do is this. That. So we're just gonna have a little go-to here that jumps back and retries it, which makes it cleaner, I think. And we'll test it with a fake thing. Okay, so that should work for us, I think. Let's try that now. Code's fairly clean and simple. So it matches in this case because it found a format. But I'm not going to let it match this time. I'm going to just use the debugger to just jump to this next line. Say, oh, it didn't match, so it's undefined. So it's going to say, oh, well, you were looking for this. So we'll just switch to BGRA and retry, and it should find a match now there. And since that's no longer undefined, it doesn't do that. It's not undefined there. So it should create it, and it should work on my platform. Let's see if it does anything weird. Nope. Oh, damn it. I hit enter. It redid it. Annoying. Okay, I have to do that again, but I just have to. Should go fix that code real quick. Let's go fix that code real quick because it might annoy me. Even though we're at the end of this, I think. Let's go fix that. Ugh, I hate this thing being too different. Weird. I guess I did. That's weird. I did do that. Weird. Don't want that to happen anymore. So back to the code. Okay, come on. All right, so things are working here. I assume resizing is working. Yes, it is. Let's go back to our Vulkan code here, set a breakpoint. Run it again. We'll do that same test, verify it works. So when it gets here, it's like, oh, it found a match. No, I'm actually going to not let it match. I'm going to let it retry with the other format. It's going to get a match, and it's BGRA. And then it's going to come and create a BGRA swap chain. So BGRA swap chain. I'm kind of just being detailed by stepping through this. It probably would just work. I wanted to see if I spotted anything while I was at it. So it looks the same, but it's using BGRA swap chain because at the hardware level, it understands, you know, when it's running the shader, it understands that it's a swizzled format and it'll be handled at the shader level, you know, that it'll be translated. So it's not going to look different, but it works still, which suggests that, you know, this code now, if I get this merged, then this code should totally work for that player, and on his device, it'll find a match and it'll work. There might be some other issues they might run into, but at least this is resolved. So let's call this a victory and move on. So let's get this. I'm on that same swap branch. I'm going to put it in there, that same PR. I'm going to get that PR merged. There's another issue of something I was working on. I'll talk about that in a minute. So we'll commit this code. Just gonna, nope, who added that space there, did I? I don't want to extra space there. Where'd that come from? Yeah, let's not do that. Don't want to add white space that I don't need to. Okay, so that's everything. That seems like a good enough comment. All right. Let's get this pushed. Well, it would be nice to have a full loop here and have that developer test this. I feel reasonably confident that it will. This will fix it. I want to point out that this is there to that user, so that maybe they do get a chance, they will take a look at it. Okay, interesting. I didn't miss this from feature UNorm is the baseline on Windows, Mac OS, and iOS. Is guaranteed to be supported. Currently, we're looking for RGBA and then switch to VGRA if we have to. I mean, that's probably fine, unless there's a compelling reason to swap our standard here. I don't see why we should do it, especially, I mean, I'm not sure why historically swap chains have been VGRA, but textures are RGBA or vice versa, but this should be fine. Use the dev. I pushed fix in. And test it. Make sure I got that right. All right, so this is building. So while that's going on, I'm going to move on to something else. So, okay, so that's done with Vulkan stuff at the moment. I think that's enough there. I mean, there's those other validation errors, but we'll live with those for right now. I want to work on pipeline a little bit. So let's switch gears for the pipeline. I'm going to close Visual Studio. I'm going to go back to, nope, not samples. I'm going to go to Circuit 3D Platformer. I don't know if I've updated this in a while or what our status is here. Let's see. Okay, we're in the Content Builder branch, so that's good. I will check out the content fixes branch. All right. Did I have a stash on this? I did. I had something with the Vulkan thing too. Oh, that was just some comments I had from before. All right. So this was something that I had before from another. I was testing another project and I ran into this. It's something simple. I'll commit it to this now because it makes sense. Just crash when very simple thing. Basically, that code would throw an exception in a case, and part of the logging of the exception was trying to translate the name of a material to a pretty name. So I thought, well, I'll translate that by converting it from this material type to the name of this material type, but assuming that it was a default material type. But in this case, it wasn't a default material type. Like it wasn't like, a sprite batch or basic effect or alpha test effect or skinned effect. It was a custom effect, and that enum doesn't have a value for custom effect for whatever reason. And that's just stored for X and A. So instead, it was just for logging. So instead, I just said, hey, just get the type and print the name of the material type, and that should get us what we want, which is good logging without crashing for no reason. So simple fix. I will push that branch now, because why not let it work on compiling that while we're doing other stuff. So what I was doing is I have this PR for content builder fixes. I have a bunch of stuff in there. The first pass that I did on this was earlier in the week, and basically it was I was trying to clean up our pathing and everything to make sure that all our paths were relatively correct, and like they use the right slashes, and that it doesn't break anything with existing pipeline extensions, existing importers and processors. So what I did was I wrote, because I knew that there was some things I was doing that were a little odd, because I ran into it in testing the platformer. So what I was doing was I added a unit test in here. I added a unit test in here to verify that all the arguments being passed in to the importer is correct, and that all the arguments coming to the processor look correct as far as paths and things like that are concerned. Like source identity was null, or so there are things like that needed to be fixed to make sure that it's complete. And then I added a new unit test in here, which basically what's interesting about it is the new pipeline works as just code. It's not a separate project or anything. It's not a command line tool. I mean, it is a command line tool, but one that you build. This is just code. I could just put the code directly into the unit test for collecting the content that I wanted. So I just collected all the content for the game. I excluded some things I knew that wouldn't compile on that are supposed to fail, because we have some content in there for testing that we know fails, and it fails on purpose because it's supposed to not support it. And there are some things that were just not cross-platform, so I just said, exclude these things that are not cross-platform, because I want this unit test to work everywhere. So I included the content just the right way, and then I have a builder test here that it basically does the same thing as a content builder. It creates the arguments, it cleans up so that every time it rebuilds it, even though rebuild should work, it does. Actually, this might be something we need to look into, because I did notice that I don't know if rebuild wasn't working, but I noticed that some stuff wasn't removed. But it possibly was because I was testing and I stopped in the middle of it and it didn't write the log properly. So so I clean up and then I run the builder and have it build and make sure that it doesn't fail. And that unit test is kind of important because it tells us that things are working properly. Okay, so this should still work here, right? Yeah, that's what I want. So I'll go to the tests here. Where is it? All right, so here's that same code. Where's the view? Test Explorer. Okay, Test Explorer. Doc. I don't know. I always prefer the Test Explorer docked. So, builder tests. So if I run that test, just doing this to kind of verify that things are working for me right here, right now. And we'll probably see, we might have to write some more tests today. We'll see what we get. So it should be building everything. Yep, there it succeeded. And if I click on it, it'll show me like the logging from it. And it only shows some of it, but if you click on open test log, it'll show you the entire logging that it did for that test. So you can see all our logging here. There were some things that we fixed that were broken that we ran into, like before it was like we went ahead, we decided on our standard, which is every file path that gets passed into the content importers or the content processors, any file path that you see there, all those paths are always going to be with the slashes that are native to the platform. So on Windows, they're backslashes. On Mac Linux, they're forward slashes. And that was the decision made because then it works properly with things like path combine, other path calls, get current working directory and stuff like that will return the slashes in the right direction for your platform. Everything will kind of work naturally. But you have to be aware that you can't just write hard code path and put the slash a different way and have it might not work properly in those cases. But at least for us, we're returning things consistently. It also is consistent with how the old pipeline worked, that it did it this way. So I wanted to make things consistent, where it seems like consistently working directory never had a trailing slash, and the source directories and output directories had a trailing slash. And that was important because what we found was in one of our unit tests, and this is where the unit tests save you, in one of our unit tests, it was doing some copying of some files, and it was concatenating some paths together, and it was failing because it was assuming the path had, a trailing slash, which tells me that the code always had one. So this caused me to fix these cases and make sure that these work right, so that it doesn't break existing pipeline extensions, that are out there. Again, trying to reduce the amount of pain for people trying to move to this. So it built all this content and we verified that it works. So we have a good unit test now here that verifies that the content builder builds content properly. So that was one of the things I did earlier this week. So now let's get back to what we want to do now. This thing finished running. I just wanted to check and see if it looks like everything's fine. Still going. All right. So I wanted to go to the, I ended up with two windows. I ended up going to the starter kit. So let's go to the starter kit, open this sucker. I think the starter kit was, I think I still had it building against, there'll be a couple things. Like one, I think it's building against NuGets at the moment. So in order to test, I need to stop building against NuGets because I want to be able to test against this thing. So I'm going to break that right now. Going to remove that. I'm going to add in. And I'm just going to do GL because I don't want to dive into trying to debug Vulkan at the moment, even though I do need to test it with Vulkan. I mainly want to keep focused on the pipeline stuff and not worry about other stuff. Let's see, where is it? MonoGame, there we go. Framework, desktop GL. So we're adding that project in. For content, we'll add in the content tools. This is what's nice about this, is that I can just remove this. Why does it do that? I don't know why exactly. Remove those guys. Yeah. Yep. And I don't think it's going to need any of those things either, because we're going to just directly link to the project, I think. I'm going to add that. reference the pipeline to it. And I guess I might have to reference this as well, maybe. I don't know, we'll see what happens. And I'll need to add a project reference here to this. Build content first and see what happens. This is rebuilding the project. It shouldn't build the content. Something failed. Let's see what failed. Content serializer can't be found. Oh, this is because this comes out of the runtime, I think. Yeah. I'll go ahead and let it link against, technically you can link, our new standard is we're kind of linking against the native library for these things because we want to, the native library does not include any runtime or doesn't include any native code in it. It's the native C# wrapper. So it's like the lightest weight one because of that. But in this case, just for my ease of use, I can link it against the existing GL one and it should be fine because it just uses some elements of it. It doesn't actually use GL or anything like that. So we'll build here and I'll write that built. And if I build this, it should build as well. You can see it's building content. All right, so build content and let's run the starter kit and verify it works. I'll probably plug in my gamepad. Is it plugged in? Make things a little easier. Not a cables. And our desk is covered in cables. There we go. I noticed to have it lately of that for those things like popping up in background instead of in the foreground. Oh, that's interesting. Why do I have a weird color? The color looks weird to me. I'm not sure why. Maybe someone was fooling around. So this is our 3D platformer starter kit. For anybody that hasn't seen it, there we go. It has a couple levels. I don't know why it looks so purple right now. That worries me. I don't think I changed anything to break that, but I'm surprised it looks like this. Because it usually doesn't look like this. Oh no, I died. Yeah, there's something going on. I'm not sure what exactly. But I'm not here to debug that. I'm here to test the pipeline. So as much as I would like to debug this, I need to keep focused on my goals here. Let's see. Missed. Oh no. Oh no, I did it again. I always think that I have more jump power than I actually do. Oh, look, that shadow. It's telling us something. This platform telling us something. Nah, it's not telling us anything. It's just a distraction, I guess. You know what is, I don't know. If we had something weird happening here, like a color change, if there was like a color change or something here, then like, it's not like BGRE RGB. It's like, there's not anything like that happening. This level sucks. Sorry. like this is just not a good level. It's like the start of a level should not be sit there and wait for a long time. Like we're not, the game is not test your patience, the game. And then have it like go there and then have to do a jump like that. You know, that's not a great level. We don't have a level select screen either. It'd be a nice addition, but you know, gotta leave, you know. There are lots of things I can critique about the gameplay of the levels, but you know, that's something else to work on. Yeah, there's a bloom effect on there, but it's kind of blown out at the moment. I'm not sure why it's so blown out. Anyways, that's not the point of this. The point is to test on the pipeline a little bit further. So what I wanted to do was, we saw what happens. What is this? I'm not sure if that's a concern or not. I'm not sure where that comes from, but whatever. Not focused on that right now. All right, so back to pipeline stuff. So I wanted to test a little further here and make sure that the pipeline builder does everything we need it to do specifically for this release, in this preview release, that people don't immediately run into problems. So mostly I wanted to make sure of a couple things. Like, so let's verify that things like, I'm going to change that scale to a huge number and just hit F5. I should see when I go to the main menu that the character is gigantic now. Yeah, so that did that. Wait, I have zoom. Hello. Can I finish the level this way? Probably not. But it's fun. So that worked. Gigantic mode, yes. And let's see tiny mode. Not tiny, but pretty small. That's pretty small. I think his collision is still the same. He's zooming. What did we have? I think we had some debug keys, if I remember correctly. There we go. There's our collision shapes. So our collision shape is still the same, but he's tiny. Feels sometimes like the chat's a little behind or something. Just saw now the chat from Dean about hitting keys. I already gotten past that. Anyways, so okay, so this is updating properly. It's, you know, we're making changes to this and just hitting F5 and it builds. So that's what we wanted to see, that it's those changes immediately apply. There's no mistake there. I also wanted to look at, because I want to force a rebuild here, which the easiest way to do that is going to be just to kill the content that's there. And I forget, is it because it's building into here? No, this is the actual build folder. It's not the actual content. I think the content, it all ends up building straight into the platform code. If I kill this, I believe it will build the content again. Yeah, so there goes to build the content. It's rebuilding everything. 61 succeeded, and if I hit build again, It'll go through there, but it doesn't build anything. It says cache found, basically, that it found in the cache, it didn't rebuild anything. So I wanted to verify that that did that properly. I assume that if I hit rebuild, what's going to happen? Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, is a question, and this came up a lot with older MonoGame and even XNA, is like, in XNA, when you hit rebuild, it would rebuild all the content. And the problem with that is that building content is not always fast. It can, especially for a bigger game, it would be slow. Like, to have an extreme example, if you were a developer on Dark Souls and you went to your compiler to build your code and accidentally hit rebuild all, you wouldn't expect it to rebuild every texture in the game. So that's, for my mind, why you don't want your content pipeline to rebuild just because you hit rebuild in your code. You should really have to explicitly request rebuilding all the content, because otherwise that's, you could easily get screwed. You'd have to sit there for hours waiting for something to build. So I don't think you want it to have that behavior. And so I think this behavior is better than that. That said, there isn't a simple way to say, hey, force it to rebuild. I mean, there is one, which is to, you could do something like, I guess you could take the arguments that come in here and modify them. Well, that's the command line arguments. What does this do internally? Let's see. Aha, parse. That's what we wanted to do. This is maybe a little nicer. This is something I was working on. Trying to think of a short name that, that is equivalent. But anyway, so this is a little nicer here because it shows you a little bit more of what it's actually doing. And then also this will allow you to do things like this. So I think, like, one, let's verify that if I just do this and hit build, it doesn't rebuild all the content. No, it's cached, right? Like, we don't want a code change like this that has nothing to do with the content itself to rebuild all the content. But if I do this, and just hit build, it should rebuild all the content. Yeah, it looks like it's rebuilding all the content. Which is what we want it to do. So that's doing that correctly. So that's good. That's a good positive thing. If I hit build again, it's going to do it again. Oh, I hit rebuild, but that doesn't matter. See, that's the kind of mistake I'm talking about. If you were a developer on a giant game like that, had, 30, 40 gigs worth of content, that has to be built, and you accidentally go build, rebuild solution, you'd be like, oh no, I'll come back, in a day or two when it's done building content. Not that those big games build content that way, but we don't want to get you in a situation where that could happen, and we'd want those to be, we want to try to set up good habits. So yeah, so that's a good change here, I think, that we'll want to try to keep. So somebody was asking earlier, I guess here's a question. Somebody was asking earlier, how do I properly load an FBX model? So we can talk about that a little bit here with this. So this starter kit, started with the intent to have a proper 3D sample for MonoGame that lets people get started quickly. And this is available currently only to patron members. Patreon members, you know, in early access here, but very soon here in the coming weeks, you know, hopefully, I'd love it to be next week. In the coming weeks, you know, this will be made go live for everybody as a starter kit that anybody can use for their own projects. So if you have any game that you're building that's 3D or that's kind of platformer-ish, you know, or you want to make it a first-person platformer as a third-person or a side-scrolling platformer or whatever, this is a good starting point for that. So it has all the bits that you need. So as far as loading models, so here we have a couple different things here, but here's like a content include FBX. You say use the FBX importer, and we have a custom processor in this case, but that's only because we have some custom functionality, some animation, and some. I guess what else do we use there? I forget. It's been a little while, so let's go look at our processor here. Wrong folder. Builder. What is our custom model processor doing? It is. Okay, so it's gathering collision data and animation data. Or the two main things that it's doing is gathering animation clips and collision data. And then it processes the animations. So yeah, so it's a little bit of custom processing for this stuff. You would think, well, why aren't animations a stock thing? Well, they're just not. You know, traditionally in XNA, they've not been the stock XNA model processor, which, you know, is included. It does work. It just does not support animation or anything like that. It's very straightforward. It's something debated internally whether we should have one that does support animation by default, but that's a big task that has a lot of implications. So we haven't gotten to that yet. But this sample will at least give you a starting point with something that's more modern and that works. As far as doing this, that yes, you know, and you know, you were going to make a project, you'd say FBX importer and like just model processor, and that will get you an imported FBX. You know, then at runtime, you want to do something like this. Where is it? So let's say CoinCS here. Oh, this has got this wacky asset map concept here. So how that works is somewhere in this code here. So here, this is where it does the actual. This code is very convoluted. We're kind of inheriting some of this, I think, from something. I forgot what it was. It's a bit convoluted what it does here, but it's loading this model. I'm going to move this out of here, making an executive decision. This is just better for clarity and make it easier to read and understand what's happening. So when this thing starts up and loads, and this is when it's loading a 3D scene, this code is basically parsing our scene definition that comes from a JSON file that was generated by Blender. So when I debug this, it's going to load an instance of a platform model. There, it loaded the model. There's your model. It's loaded. In our case, we have a tag here. The tag is like just a generic object holder. It'll hold on to an object of any kind. And in our case, we shoved in an object that has our model data in it, our extra data that our pipeline is generating. In this case, it's animation data, a bounding box for it. So we have a bounding box at runtime for it. Because surprisingly, the stock model does not have a bounding box built in, which is weird. It actually has something else. It has it's actually on the meshes. I believe it has like a bounding sphere or something. Yeah, it has a bounding sphere. But we wanted an overall bounding box, so we shoved it in our own tag here. And then collision data that we want In this case, we're using a third-party plugin. Here, we're using, what's the name of it? We're using MI convex hull to generate convex hulls out of geometry. So it goes and looks at our mesh and generates an optimized convex hull with a limited amount of bases in order to get a tight collision shape for any of our objects. In this case, it's a platform, and these are kind of important because it's a platformer. You know, really, I would rather recommend somebody, if they're really being serious about building a platformer, to build their, you know, their collision meshes separately. You know, you can embed them, you can build them in your editor, in Blender or whatever, along with your visual part of your model. But you want to kind of tightly control that because you want it, that affects your feel a lot, how your collision works. And you can still do that in this case, but in our case, we're just kind of falling back to using default, you know, or generating a convex hull from the visual mesh, just to make it easy for people to extend this, and a good starting point for people. So it gets this model, and then it goes and creates this entity, right? So that shows you how models are loaded through here. Could you load this thing a different way? Yeah, you could find a runtime FBX parser or something like that, or a runtime OBJ parser if you want to use OBJ models. But that's a lot of work at runtime, where this already has everything pre-built in a format that already loads the GPU. For instance, it's not going through there and reading, you know, text, vertex formats, you know, across to load something into memory. It's not trying to translate from, like, FBX a lot of times keeps all their geometry in like lists of things. So it'll be a list of all the vertices and a list of all the texture coordinates, a list of all the normals. You know, well, the GPU doesn't work that way generally. It wants to have, you know, interleaved data with each vertex being the position and the texture chord and the normal or whatnot all together in the chunk, and then have a list of those elements. Well, we do all that stuff at pipeline time, at build time, so that's already done, and we have it in a format the GPU expects that's optimized. You know, and that's why you want to do it in the pipeline, because it gets rid of that work at runtime. And yes, on typical PCs, that work is fairly fast and it's not a problem. You know, but when you get to things that are slower PCs, which some people have, or you get to mobile that's slower than your PC, or you get to console, which, you know, not a surprise, consoles are slower than the average PC. You know, they're fairly fast when on launch day. They're kind of like a high mid PC, but they're not as good as the best PCs. They're just optimized to just do console stuff. They don't have a bunch of Windows junk running in the background or whatever. They're not super high-end CPUs, GPUs. GPUs sometimes are higher end than the CPUs, but they're just not made, you know, they're not a desktop PC, so they're never as fast as what you get on a desktop PC. So while you can do this stuff at runtime, by doing it at runtime and not building your content ahead of time, optimized for your hardware, you're just leaving yourself set up to have a very slow load time eventually when you bring this project to a console or some other platform. So let's go look at this entity actually for like coin or something. I'll show you how it's doing some modification of the material here. Huh, interesting. I didn't realize it did this. Someone's been messing here. Wait, why is it doing that? Is it using basic effect for that? I guess it is. I thought we had a custom shader for some of this stuff. Maybe we don't. Maybe it's all using basic effects. So this is kind of hacked in here, I guess. But, you know, you can do that kind of stuff. It is runtime modification, but it should be fine for this case. What I wanted to look at was where we actually draw this guy. Billboards here mean like particle effect, basically. Where's our draw? Do we not have a draw? I think it's actually in the base, isn't it? Yeah. Because there's a bobbing entity. And then there's entity, which in this case, we have an entity, a simple entity hierarchy, and the global entity has the model. So let's set a breakpoint here in the draw. Where it is. There it is. That's interesting. Why is that ever getting to the draw? Oh, that draw doesn't get hit, huh? Because it works a little differently here. Yeah, because it's yeah, I'm not sure what that basic effect thing is. That's kind of weird. I wonder if that's old code that just never gets used. Because I think it draws everything through the shadow. The shadow processor, it's not just because it's rendering shadows, it also renders the shadow processor also renders the model. It's a little hard to understand. It's like draw a model with shadow. That's what the shadow processor is doing. So it's really not a shadow processor. It's really more of a yeah, I guess Dean was saying it. It's a shader processor, not a shadow processor, really. But really, it's more of it's not even a processor, I would say. It's more like a model renderer, that happens to support shadows. We're still doing some work to kind of clean up this code before we release it, because we want to document a little bit more and make it easier to understand in some cases. So this is one of those places where it's like, this is not super easy to understand. Anyways, how this custom processor works is it comes in here, it does some special stuff like, opaque versus blend stuff by just reading the color channel. Very simple stuff. Sets up a custom effect here for this guy. And this is not super efficient, but it works. Again, simple sample. We have more advanced samples we're working on. It basically goes through the meshes in the model. And then the parts in the model, and then sets the vertex buffer for the part, sets the index buffer for the part, then calls, takes every pass in the current effect, and then calls draw index primitives with it. So very straightforward. There is in model itself, there is a draw function, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So there's a draw that basically does this, that's built into the existing model class, which just whatever effect you have, it just does this. But it's very straightforward, and it doesn't allow you to make any modifications to it. It's very simple, but this totally works as well. So you could just go to the model and just call that. I think, does that get called? Yeah, model itself has a draw as well. So you can technically just call model draw, pass in the worldview projection matrices, and it will draw the model on its own. Apply any of the bone transforms that it has, and it will just draw the model itself. That's it, and that's part of stock monogame. So that's the path I would take if you were trying to use a model in there. I would start there. But it's also very expandable and easy to change and modify. And that's what this starter kit is trying to show, that, hey, this is simple to change, it's simple to modify. So that was the question of how do I properly load a model? Let's see, any other questions coming through at the moment? No, there isn't. Let's see. So where were we at? We're back to this guy. All right, so we're testing the pipeline a little bit more. One thing I wanted to look at was what it's naming certain things and dependencies, and seeing if that is working properly. Because, it works here for this sample, but I think we're going to run into problems immediately with this thing. So I want to try to shake out any problems we have right now as much as we can. So those seem like they were named appropriately. That seems all named appropriately. I wonder about stuff like this. That's a dependent object of some sort. I want to know what it is and what it should be doing. Like, these are the things that worry me. Is this naming? Because I suspect that is not platform medium _1. It's not another copy of platform medium. I expect that that's something, a different piece of content. It's naming it badly. And that will not stand. We will name it properly. So let's take a look at that real quick and see what's actually happening here. What's a simple one to deal with? These are all models. Do we have this happening anywhere else? No. It's all in the models. So let's go look at it. Let's use coin as an example. I'm going to just delete coin from here. Actually, yeah, let's delete coin. And when I then build build again, it will go and build that piece of content. So when I'm at it, I'm going to go into the builder and turn on the debugger. If I uncomment that, it'll launch the debugger when it builds. What's our time look like? 10:30. So we've got another 30 minutes. And we'll want to set a breakpoint in, let's start the model processor. Set a breakpoint there to begin with, and we'll see where we go from here. So hit F5. It's going to want to attach the debugger. Let it attach the debugger. It's going to start building content here any second now. No, it's still setting at a breakpoint. Hit F5. Hey, what's happening? What's happening? Oh, I launched into the wrong window. Well, that sucks. I'm gonna stop debugging and let it finish. Okay, let's do that again. I selected the wrong window to debug in. That's something I've done more than once now, but you can see that it rebuilt it. Let's get rid of it again. I'm gonna do it again from here. I'm just gonna hit build. I don't need to hit debug. Now select the right window, platformer. F5, it's here. So here it is. I should see here currently it has not rebuilt the coin yet. Once I see it, I'm going to sort by date, time, modified. Once I see it rebuild the coin, I know that it did something. So let's see if that does. See, that built coin 1. So the base processing built coin 1. It's probably either an effect or a texture, is my guess. Somebody talking about 3D kit. Can't wait to make a hands-on 3D kit. Set up a basic 3D world before with an FPS camera, but struggled with figuring out how to implement basic collision system. Well, good news. I mean, the collisions in here are really good. We spent some good time on that to make sure that it was good. And we decided not to, we decided to go with convex hulls because it's the fast way to do collision. You could still do like static, just mesh collision, but that's not fast. Convex hulls are fast. We have a good implementation of generating convex hulls, and our collision code is actually pretty robust. If you go into base, into collision mesh, the collision mesh type is the thing that does all the collision. It has some helpers for like the player, instead of generating a convex hull we generate a cylinder, so it generates the cylinder for the player. Generating a collision mesh from the model, it'll try to use the collision data that's already in the model, like if it built a convex mesh for it. Here's all the real code for it. Intersects. You take a collision mesh and it'll spit out, a contact for the intersection between this collision mesh, the one that we're looking at now, and the other. It'll generate a contact for it. And some code for drawing collisions that we saw in the game when it was drawing collisions. Or collision holes. That's what it was showing. Was that, and then all that stuff comes from where does it come from? And here's like the convex hull type itself, which has like where is it? Yeah, is separating axis. This is all standard old school convex hull code. Separating axis theorem and projections. Getting support points, all this stuff is standard stuff that happens in collision. So it's like you're intersecting two convex hulls, it'll return a contact. So this is all code you can step through and learn from, which is, invaluable to someone starting out. And it also is, you can modify, and make changes. I was having trouble getting a good approximating a contact point. There's lots of different ways to generate a contact point for a contact. There's a lot of weird cases, and it's something you'll have to just learn over time. I know exactly what it does. I don't think so. So I'm saying I know, you can tell what parts I wrote because I know exactly what it does. I don't know exactly, but I know a good amount, I guess. Even sometimes with my code, it's like, wait, why do I do it this way? I forget why this is supposed to be this way. Sometimes it just is, and it's just because I've written this stuff before. So pretty standard stuff, but it's stuff that is pretty important for someone starting out, and this gives you a really good starting point for that. Just having good, solid collisions that work. And I've not seen any we got all the bugs out of it, all the vibrations and shakiness and sliding, all that stuff is there. It works. You can stand on a angled platform and it works. We always even have some special code in here for squashing the player. So you can tell if you get 2 contact points at opposite sides, we look at those to decide to squash the player. So we have some cool stuff in there. So let's see where we're at. Yeah. Ooh, what is that? Ugh. Application insight search. That sounds like garbage. No, thank you. Nobody wants any of that. There's probably a whole Visual Studio team dedicated to that fucking window. Or there used to be, maybe. So yeah, back to what we're doing. So we were investigating why it was generating this extra type and what that was. So regenerate these guys. So I want to see what this thing is. If I remember correctly, the builder, when it builds, let's do this. If I search for .xnb, that's the font format, I will find get destination path. Let's use this. I will then delete this guy, and I will hit F5, or just hit build. That's interesting. Did I not do it right? Oh, interesting. That's kind of interesting. Wait, is it? Maybe it isn't interesting. We'll see. Let's do it again. Okay, there it goes. First time it didn't seem like it went. Guess it's going to do this for everything. What I want it to do is actually do it. Should build. This is a new pipeline code I haven't done. Just to see what it does here. Is it actually going to build it or not? Oh, this is just scanning the files. This is not even actually building. I think this is the part that it actually matters here. Yeah, I said garbage. Sorry. It's just, there's just so much in Visual Studio that bothers me. That feels like they're distracted with dumb things, like how many times I've had to come into Visual Studio and fix the size of this little drop down because someone decided to call call a configuration something crazy long and you can't read it, yet we're adding all these windows for garbage that we don't really need. It's like, that's the thing that drives me nuts, is this such basic things that don't work right, but we have all these other things that are not necessarily important. So let's see, what I wanted to do was look for where it decides it doesn't need to build or not. Okay, so this is where we want to be. What's our file here? Okay, so that's the coin. Yeah, so it detected. So that was good, interesting, right? Like coin XNB exists, but it detected I still need to build it. So that's good, that it did that properly. So it's going to run that processor again. It did that work inside of here, so we're just going to have to step through here. I don't know where it's actually triggering this building of this other piece of content. We need to find it. It's probably in convert material is my guess. We'll just find out. I'm just going to watch this thing pop up, once it does it. I'm pretty sure that when I step into here, okay, so there's a child build. It's trying to build another piece of content here. So yeah. Aha, so it's a material, or it's a texture. See, this is the thing that worries me, is this thing is rebuilding this texture every time for every one. It's like, well, what should I name it? And it's naming it the same as the starting thing. I know that I've talked to Harry about this and that it was something that he had plans a bigger fix for. But I think that we want to do that sooner rather than later. So here it decided that the output path is coin 1 XNB. Where does it make that decision? Relative desk path. It's probably just get destination path. That's my guess. I'll check this again here in a minute. All right, we'll try it again here. Probably need to leave it at this point like that. We're going to launch again. Want it to get here. Now, the next time it gets up here, it's going to be for this other. It's going to rerun. It's going to process content for this sub thing. And this is where, yeah, so there's color map, and now it needs a output name. Oh no, this already came through. Okay, so the caller's bringing that through. Yep, the caller made the decision on what the name is. Get next output path. Yeah, I've seen that before. Okay, so that's what does it, is get next output path. I'm going to start by doing something hacky first, and we can go from there. We'll do it again. Oh. Okay. Relative content path. Does output path a method? Okay, so it's this thing. Anybody happen to remember what XNA did back in the day for cases like this? I'm pretty sure it did not just name the thing the same name as the base thing. That's just not good. Kind of surprised that there's no other information here. At this point, it has no clue what the actual source content it's building is. I guess it doesn't. Okay, so there's a source map, a file name that comes out of here. Color map PNG. This all feels so familiar. I think I did some of this once before already. So what we want to do, I think, is, and I want to see where this is actually done for this file itself. So I want to see how we're doing in other places before I hack this. And I don't know if this will actually use this or not. Somebody's asking, like, is there an estimated date for 385? You know, for me, the estimated date was any minute now for the last 2-3 months at this point. Like we had our board meeting last week, or I'm sorry, earlier this week. And, you know, that was something that I brought up to everybody, was that, you know, we've been saying for the last 3 months that 385 is ready to ship. We ran into two problems. One, we really wanted to ship this new starter kit with 385. And to do that, we wanted to make sure that everything that it needed was ready, and we didn't want to ship it using the old content builder. We wanted to use the new content builder. So the new content builder and issues with it have been one blocker towards shipping 385. There was also, we wanted to have Vulkan and DX12 in a preview state. So they should be relatively stable, not done, not fully stable. There should still be bugs and issues, but when relatively stable. And Vulkan was really pretty broken at that point. So those were two of the blockers. Another blocker, which I plan to try to fix in the next couple days, if I can squeeze in some time, is I wanted to try to get an audio solution for the Vulkan and for the Vulkan backend, because there isn't currently one. The plan was to make an F Audio implementation, you know, since F Audio mimics the X Audio, Microsoft's X Audio API, X Audio 2 API specifically. The idea was that we just take our current X Audio implementation, copy it, rename it F Audio, change a couple of arguments, and it should just work. I think somebody submitted a PR sort of like that, but I don't know if that's exactly what they did. But the problem was that PR was kind of untested and did not work. So someone needs to go in there and look at it, test it, see if it works, and see if we can make that PR work. If we can, then we'll merge that, and that'll give us an audio implementation for Vulkan platforms that is cross-platform. So that's the plan. But those are the things that have basically kept us blocked. And it's, you know, things have been distracting. You know, life has been distracting lately, so that doesn't help very much either. Those have been the things that have kept us from shipping 385. But hell or high water, we're shipping that thing, and I'm gonna make sure it goes out this month. I'm just going to make it happen. Even if you have to ship it with issues, we're going to ship it because it's better for us to get it out there and move things forward than to continue to hang on to things, and wait till it's perfect. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be problems. So yeah, that's what's going on there. So what I was going to look for was where it makes a decision of what to call something. I want to see how that relative path is made. If it's made, it might not even be made. It might just already exist this way. Yeah, so we just have to make it happen. Okay, so this can pass in a name to give it. Trying to be careful too here because some of this stuff is very much tied to the old pipeline, and I don't want to break stuff in the old pipeline. So what I'm trying to change is things that are very specific to the new one. So it needs to happen here because this is the thing that actually does it. I'm going to rewrite some of this code. We'll see what happens. Let's just start with code that's a little bit easier to follow here. So that's what it's actually doing. We're just going to stop it right now. Is that how you do that? Yeah, I think that's how you do that, to squelch that warning. I'm still new to that stuff. Yeah, the holidays are coming up. It makes everything difficult. I really do want to get this thing out ASAP. So that's why I'm working on this today and not other stuff. It's almost the 2-hour mark. I'm going to go a little bit longer here. I'm feeling pretty good about what I saw with the pipeline. Things are kind of working, but I just didn't get to the meat of it, which is really this issue. If I can come up with a better solution, even temporary, I think it's better than what we have. I wish I knew exactly what XNA did in this case. I'll have to test that later. We have a virtual machine set up where I can test XNA stuff. I might actually need to test it and see what it did, just to see how close we can do to replicating that behavior. What I started with was this. So if it's null, what we're going to actually do is we're going to get source asset file name, and we're going to do I think we have like is it file? We have a helper somewhere for making relative. Word relative can't be used that often, right? I'm just searching through here to find. We have a helper in here for already making relative paths. I just don't remember where it is. That's this. Content builder parameters make relative. Path get relative path. Oh, so we're using a stock Windows thing, I guess. Okay, let's do that. I think that's the relative to, right? So what we want to do is we want to do, oh wait, do we not have the content? Oh, maybe it's in here. This is the thing that gets you stuck, is when you're like, well, wait a second, how do I get to this information here? Oh, we might be able to do what this did is cheat. This thing like went around, and because we have access to the builder here from this thing. Oh, wait, I'm in the right thing. What am I talking about? It's in here, I think. Project directory, I think, is what I need. Yep. I think that's right. Could be wrong. Directory contains the content project. I think that's generally the root of the content. So I'm going to try this. Let's see what happens when this happens. Let's see what happens. It's going to get rid of you. Did something really wacky. Probably crashed something out. Make sure that's rebuilt. Don't trust it. Okay, there it is. So asset name's null. Project directory is content assets. So there, models color map. So it should have made a models color map. Oh, whoa, what? Oh, because I didn't run it. I see. It created an XMB called that. That's bad. Okay, let's stop that. Stop debugging. We don't want to do that. What was the trick here? It was like, no. Yeah. You know, just I guess this is looking for the extension. Oh, what the hell is this? I've never seen that fucking terminology. I know Harry wrote this code because, well, I know for that reason, but also Harry loves using new XNA feature or new C# features that no one's ever heard of yet, at least for me, for sure. So whatever that is, I assume it says, you know, it's some sort of extract this, you know, from the beginning to this point or something like that, which this kind of stuff, we as a board, we need to have a discussion about things like this. Like, yeah, I guess this is fancy and everything, but I expect that 99% of C# developers have no clue what this code actually does. And in my opinion, this is the kind of junk that C# should never be adding, because it's just like, it's going to end up like C++, where everything is a symbol of some sort with weird symbols in places that make things make sense. You know, like I just think it makes things not understandable. Function. Okay, so I think I want to call this. It's going to be down here. Yep. Right. Oh no, it's static, isn't it? It's static. All right, so that should do it. Yeah, some saying that that's the new range syntax, that ... thing. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's cute and everything. And oh, wow, I saved myself so much time, but it makes the code so much more unreadable. There's been a lot of just, hey, let's make a symbol for something kind of stuff. And I just think I don't think it's necessarily helping the language. It's not like the problems with C# is it's too verbose. It's like, I don't think that's the case. C++ has that problem. C# does not. I'm sure somebody made an argument for it that got people excited. Okay, so now I have the right name, and it's in the right path the way that it wants it. So now it's going to build it as dependency, but it's color map X and B. And it looks like it built it right, I guess. I don't know, that seems like a different size. I'm a little worried about that. Wait, okay, no, the time's right. So if I have it rebuild, let's do this. I'm going to copy this content over to here, or let me cut it. I'm going to put it in here. Oh, nope, don't want to do that either. Yeah, where I put it. I'm going to move it out of the way for a moment. Then let it build new content now. Let's see what it does. I want to see actually what happens, and I'm going to use the folder to figure that out. Yeah, so I don't need to debug, I don't think. So I'm going to let it build. So you saw it build color map lots of times. So it built everything, it succeeded. Let's run it, I guess, and verify that it runs still. That would be good. So if it doesn't run, it doesn't matter what I did there. Nope. I guess it ran, so that's fine. So I'm going to compare this old content to the new content that it generated to see what it actually did different. This is Beyond Compare, which I've been using forever. It's a great tool. So, interesting. Oh. So before, so these cloud ones, dust ones, those are gone. It's shoved it under a folder called color map though, which I guess technically that's where it actually exists. But it also has one there. They're the same size. It still made a duplicate. I think this one is it actually processing the color map directly. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. verbose, you know, versus is actually cryptic. Yeah, that's the problem with it, is that getting rid of verbosity makes it cryptic. And in this case, it's just like, if I knew the syntax, it wouldn't bother me as much, but I didn't know the syntax, and I figured that's what it was. That was my guess. But it just seems like it's not good for new users. And it's, you know, if they had 4 or 5 more of those things, I can see a line of code written that's going to be like just symbols, and like, what is the point? You know, it's like, it's better to have code that you can actually read. So yeah, this was always here. So this is not us. At least in this case, when it's doing this, it's sharing this thing. And I would assume, and I don't know for sure, this will be something I have to ask Harry about or test it, is, you know, if this thing was processed 2 different ways, would it generate 2 of them because the other one has different parameters? I think it might. But I think this is normal XNA behavior, having it in both places. But at least now we have a better name, and you know what the heck it is now, which is what I wanted, is that not to be cryptic, because it's like, well, what the hell is this _1 garbage? You know, if I remember correctly, XNA does the underscore numbers whenever there was 2 instances of the same item, then it would do that. But it wouldn't do it like character 1 is not another instance of character. It is a different asset. So it's not the same thing as what XNA did originally. That is. Yes, soon C# will be in the obfuscated code contest. Yes, for sure. It's getting there. It's not quite up there with C++ and C, but, you know, it's trying to get into that, I guess. So yeah, I'm not unhappy with this. It's doing the right thing, but is that the right thing? Let me verify a couple things here. Content assets, models. Okay, yeah, color map is in here, and it's in here, which I'm not sure why that is. I think there is a thing where some of the models are looking for it. Some of the models reference it in a subfolder, I think is what the deal is. These, let's see, are these nice FBXs or no? They're not nice FBXs, but you can still look at them. So there's color map. See some embedded paths in here. So Dean's, he did it on a Mac. It looks like, no, well, maybe he did it on a Mac. I don't know. Sandbox repos, Kenny NL, food to color map PNG. That's how that stuff gets embedded in there. A lot of junk. Security violation. So not that one. How about this one? That's where that textures color map comes from. I could fix this. Is that the only one? Yeah, let's fix this. Let's fix this. We're using this because of, if I remember correctly, we're using this because there was an issue with the animation, the other. I'm just hacking your GLib. This is why I like text formats for stuff like this, even though it's definitely not efficient. Actually, you know, I might have just broken it, maybe. I thought this was a text format, but maybe it's not. Let's see what happens. Some JSON attached to the beginning of it. Let's see if that actually works. Fuck. Who knows? Maybe I did fix it in a good way. The only way to know is to build it. So let's just build it. First, I'm gonna. God damn it. First, I'm gonna just delete that. Make sure it builds again. Always forget to turn off the debugger after a while here. Looks like maybe it would have failed. Yep. Yeah, I broke the file by modifying it. I was hoping I could fix that easily. That's annoying. Well, it'd be nice if we fix this not to have that in there. Maybe Dean's on here. Maybe at some point he can fix that glib not to reference it in a subfolder called textures, so we don't have to have a separate texture in there like that. Because there's no reason for it. I have to rip this guy's get well. This does work, so that's good. The question is that I still haven't tested here, which I'm out of time really to test it. You know, it's been 2 hours now. I need to get on to other things for the day. But the thing that I haven't tested is what happens if you reference the same asset but with different build parameters. What does it do? You know what? I could possibly test it real quick. Let's do a quick test. We'll come here and we'll delete 2 different models that we know use it. We'll delete the color map. I think we just do that. It'll force a rebuild of everything. Yeah. So now we'll do F6 to build. It's going to come in here. Let's do this. So here's the first one. I don't know what we're building at the moment. We know it's building the color map, but what's the actual asset it's building it for? I don't know. We'll leave this one alone. But what we'll do is on the second one, so on this one, the same map, we're going to purposely take this processor and let's flip this. And another one, that one's harder to change. Oh man, so every time I see a Visual Studio window that doesn't work, like a Visual Studio window with some garbage, like that thing that popped up earlier that was unnecessary to me, I look at stuff like this and go like, why is it 2025 and there isn't a fucking drop down here to let me select another enum? Why? Why doesn't that exist? That is so much more useful than a window that gives me some other garbage that I don't need. Those are the kinds of things that drive me bananas. Or simple things like, why can't I just put 0 here for false? You know, or 1 for true. It should figure that out on its own. I shouldn't have to type the word false out. Just dumb things like that drive me bananas when I see all this other garbage around it. It does not actually help me with my daily work. Anyway, so back to this. So we changed something. Let's just change the color key to something else. Or no, of course it doesn't like that. That'd be too easy for that stuff to work and be easy to work with. So I made 2 changes there. So we are definitely parameter changes now. So the question is what is this going to do? It's going to build this a couple more times. Is it going to generate 2 different parameters, 2 different textures or not? Is the question. What did it do? Let's see. It only has 1. So it didn't see that as a difference and generate a different one, which is what the problem is here. Is because the problem with the Blender animations is Blender doesn't export the animations properly. It can't edit paths for the textures. So yeah. Anyways, so that's why we're using the glib file or glb file, whatever it is, in that. So that's the problem here, is that we changed the parameters on the processor, which I changed the processor, which means I changed the parameters on the processor. So we changed the parameters on the processor, but it did not result in a change in the output file, which is what it needs to do in those cases. It needs to say, hey, you're building the same piece of content in 2 different ways. Let me generate another one. And honestly, I'd rather have it do this right now and get the wrong file than having it have an _1 and have duplicate files, because I think duplicate files is not great either. But my concern is not the duplication as much as the naming is bad, is that you don't know what the heck that thing is. So I'll have to have a discussion with Harry about that and decide what the best path is here. Or I need to just invest my time to fix the bug and make this work properly, which it should see that there's already one out. It should say, hey, there's already one built with these these options, so I'm going to reuse that one. Or say, actually, these parameters are different on this one, so I need to build it a second time, and these are 2 different references. And that's where it would have the _1. It's like, oh, this color map built one way, and then one built a different way. That's where it would have the underscores. So yeah, all right, well, we learned some stuff. We know that there's still a problem here with dependent content that we need to look into. And I'll just have to find some time to do that. But otherwise, the pipeline stuff is working pretty good. So it might be that it's shippable anyways, even with this annoyance, because it is only preview code. So maybe it's not such a big deal. So yeah, I think we're going to call it a day here. So hopefully that was sort of insightful, I guess. Maybe there was a lot of rambling and maybe a lot of silence while I was staring at the screen trying to figure something out. Sorry about that. Sometimes I get distracted. And yeah, if you want to help us out on our mission here of making a good C# development environment where you actually write code and not just drag little boxes around on the screen, support MonoGame. Check out our website. We have a donate link. Go there and donate to the project, and that goes back into being able for us to spend time on this and do our next big things. The content builder is be out soon, or the new content builder will be out soon with 3.8.5, as well as the new Vulkan backend and the new DX12 backend. And when we do that, we'll also ship the Platformer Starter Kit, which is now available to Patreon members. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Hopefully it went well. I'll see you next time. Bye.